Soulja Boy is one of the most interesting rappers to ever exist. I mean, Soulja Boy is what happens when a rapper that was supposed to be a one-hit wonder gains massive success beyond that first hit. He has remained relevant way past its expiration date and maybe even killed hip-hop, but we can get to that later. The Andre Cortez Way was born in July 28, 1990, and although he has a pretty cool name, you probably know him best as Soulja Boy. Or Soulja Boy Tell him back in the day. And before he broke into mainstream hip-hop, a young Soulja Boy always carried an affinity for music, at least to the point of his dad providing him with a studio where he could find his sound and see if music was really for him. And that sound is something that Soulja Boy would find on the streets of the internet, specifically the streets of MySpace and YouTube, because those were basically his home.
What's up, man? This is nigga Soulja Boy, you know what I'm saying? Y'all think this a game, but this ain't no game, you know what I'm saying? I'm riding big time on the 22s, you know what I'm saying?
And I guess it is worth mentioning that Soulja Boy did release a debut album of sorts with Unsigned and Still Major, the album before the album.
I got me some bathing. I got me some.
This is definitely not some hidden Illmatic, but it's definitely a product of early YouTube and the limited pixels of it too. But hey, a start is a start, right? And I can't really judge too much. It was 2007 and he has no big labels backing him. So yeah, I guess I rock with it. However, almost immediately after the release of Soulja's independent record, Soulja Boy Tell him was back at it, as in the same month that the record came out, he'd record a song that would forever change his career, his life, and low-key hip-hop in a way.
Soulja Boy, I fin it. Why me crack it? Why me roll? Why me crack that Soulja Boy? That Superman.
Back in May of 2007, Soulja Boy released the biggest hit of his career and one of the biggest hits in all of music in the 2000s with the release of Crank That.
Crank that Soulja. Now why me? Crank that Soulja. Now why me?
The song definitely took a while to get to the point where we know it to be, but the success of it had a lot to do with Soulja himself. And that is something that made Soulja different to most, if not every rapper in 2007. His use of the internet as a promotional tool is something that really made him stand apart.
Over 5 million plays on Unsigned and Major.
I uploaded to YouTube. That shit got like 14 million.
And I mean, for being ahead of his time, he got ahead of the game, which definitely helped Crank That make it all the way to the top of Billboard's Hot 100. To understand the run that Crank That had, we need to look at like the whole landscape. To put into perspective how big of a song Crank That was in 2007, let's highlight Kanye West. Kanye in 2007 was in the middle of a peak run, with Graduation being his most commercially successful album, especially considering the record was on the brink of selling 1 million copies in its first week.
I think he did when he packed it up and brought it back to the crib.
And that success reflected itself in the way of its lead single, Stronger. Stronger by Kanye West is a song that took Kanye months to master. He had this feeling that the instrumentation was off, and he kept working on it until perfection. And perfection for Kanye meant that Timbaland would have to help out with the drums. And that being paired with the high budget music video and the Daft Punk sample made for one of the most expensive songs ever created.
Let's get lost tonight.
Among a sea of high charting hits, Stronger could be considered Kanye's most popular song. But even in the moment, Stronger was a very popular song in 2007, and it too hit the top of the charts. However, despite the success that it carried, the song only topped the chart for 1 week. Because week after week, there was one song that held the top spot above it.
Ooh, Soulja Boy?
Of the 7 weeks in which Crank That sat on top of the charts, Stronger stood at number 2 for 6 of those weeks. And considering the vastly different budgeting of both songs makes for a very interesting story to tell. I mean, on one hand you have Kanye West and he's out here spending over $1 million on the music video alone, and on the other hand you have Soulja Boy, someone who wasn't even signed to a label upon the release of Crank That, and someone who made the beat on the demo version of FL Studio. Meaning that you could make Crank That, or if you wanted to produce the song, assuming you already have a laptop or a computer, the budget for that beat would be $0. And honestly, I think that makes for the perfect underdog story. Crank That was also nominated for a Grammy, by the way, which is odd considering who the Grammys select for nominations nowadays. But thankfully, he wouldn't win. That would go to Kanye, so no need to feel bad for Kanye if you did feel bad for Kanye, which I don't know why you would. However, despite the massive underdog story that is the success of Crank That, there was one man who disapproved of the young Soulja Boy, and that man goes by the name of Ice-T.
Fuck Soulja Boy, eat a dick. This nigga single-handedly killed hip-hop.
So for those who don't know Ice-T, he is one of the most iconic and respected rappers of all time, especially with him being one of the pioneers of the whole gangster rap movement of the late 80s and early 90s. Ice-T is truly a hip-hop legend, and one that hated Soulja Boy.
Soulja Boy, let me talk about Soulja Boy. Soulja Boy, I know you're young enough to be my kid, but you single-handedly kill hip-hop, man. You know what I'm saying? I can't fucking from it. All that shit is such garbage.
Although nowadays you might know Soulja Boy as Big Draco or just someone who is more of the gangster life, back in 08, Soulja Boy was basically for the kids. Or at the very least, you could say he was a fun-loving rapper that didn't take himself too seriously. And I mean, we're talking about the guy that beefed with LeBron, kind of. And not because he was like seriously offended, but for the fun of it.
Everybody loves Soulja Boy. Tell him I can't wait for his new album and animated series this summer.
But still though, the narrative around Soulja Boy was that he was straight garbage. Soulja Boy was to the 2000s what mumble rappers were to 2018. But all things considered, I think he was a little bit overrated. Overhated, I mean. Not overrated. Nobody was overrating him. And of course, with a rapper that's considered to be trash topping the charts, the hip-hop legends will usually hate. So yeah, boys and girls, Soulja Boy killed hip-hop, at least according to Ice-T. And it's pretty self-explanatory why he would think that. But let's just recap everything that happened just so we're on the same page. So, Soulja Boy, he comes into the scene and he releases Crank That. And that's it. That's all Soulja Boy did. He released Crank That and somehow that killed hip hop. I don't know why Ice-T had all this energy for Soulja Boy in all honesty, but low key, Soulja Boy was the more mature person in this situation.
Well, you know, I respect everybody to the utmost. I don't want to disrespect nobody. I know Ice-T is a old ass nigga.
I think this is something that's missing from hip-hop, just the understanding that not all hip-hop has to be lyrical hip-hop or has to be pop hip-hop. The understanding that every artist doesn't have to be what you want them to be, and through that you create a diverse genre that a lot of people can be a part of. Maybe if we did that more, I wouldn't see as many videos on YouTube talking about hip-hop being dead. But that's just me. That's just me though. Anyways, so I'm in university now, right? So if you hear an echo, don't blame me. I am in a fucking quiet room in a library, and yeah, shit is not looking good. Maybe I need a new mic, but I don't think a new mic helps that much. But with that being said, shout out to me, shout out to Jay Dilla, and shout out to y'all. And yeah,